How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Ganji. Welcome to another episode of Chair Talk. Guys, look at this. Warning signs. The professor who predicted Bryan Kohberger's dark future. Check out this letter. Now, this was given to her colleagues long before any of the murders happened. This is a professional leaning on her experience, leaning on her expertise, and letting the colleagues know this is what I am seeing. This is what I am feeling, and I am trusting on those feelings. And I got to say, it takes tremendous courage to act on your feelings. And again, that's truly someone that is leaning on her experience and her expertise. Kohberger is smart enough that in 4 years, we will have to give him a PhD. Mark my words. I work with predators. If we give him a PhD, that's the guy that in that many years when he's a professor, we will hear is harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing. And she says, mark my words. I mean, she is adamant. And she is leaning on everything she has, experience, expertise, feelings. So I wanted to break a couple of things down, if that's okay, if you guys want to just bear with me on this. So when you're in the profession, when you deal with predators, especially at such an intimate level as those who study them, and when I say intimate level, even when I work in corrections as a CO at the time when I was a CO, even at prison management, for the most part, I know what they've done. And that really is not the hard part of knowing what they've done. It's how they've done it and why they've done it. So there are people that actually, they need to know that so they can study and try to understand motives. Again, it's an effort to be preventive. And this is what this person, this professor was doing. The people that study sex offenders, they study them at such an intimate level. They study the crime. They study the motive. They get into the how, which is very hard, not just to comprehend, but just to take in. And then the why as well. I had Ann Salter on my show a while back. You guys should look her up on the Tier Talk platform. I did 2 episodes. One, she couldn't make it on, so it's basically me and my friend Connie just going over it because we were going live and she couldn't make it. But then there is the one where she was able to go on, and she talks about, studying sex offenders, predators, and it is tough because they are going to share with you some very specific details that most people, they would be horrified and shocked with, but she needs to be able to absorb that and still be professional in that interview. But it does take its toll because they are seeing the worst of humankind. They are seeing the worst that we have to offer here as human beings. And basically, she taught me a lot through that interview. And what I realized is knowing the what is one thing, but when you really have to dig into the how or that why, man, it just gets harder through every layer. But it's needed because those deep studies are what help us catch signs that most would not normally see. So I have a couple of things I want to mention here just to kind of relate it to that email. And I think it's spot on. I think it's a good interpretation. So I have the professor clearly recognized. So we got cognitive ability paired with manipulative potential. So the professor clearly recognized his academic capacity, noting that he was smart enough to achieve a PhD. This is not a casual compliment. In her field, it likely meant she saw intellectual horsepower combined with certain cunning. So in predator profiling, intelligence can serve as a force multiplier for harmful behavior. A highly intelligent a highly intelligent person can, well, he's an inmate, but just in general, a highly intelligent person can plan long-term grooming strategies with calculated precision, read people quickly to spot vulnerabilities, and mask inappropriate actions behind charm, intellect, or professional credibility. Intelligence alone isn't dangerous, but when paired with manipulative tendencies, it allows someone to create complex, layered deceptions that are harder for others to detect or challenge. This creates a bit of a spin now on how we see Kohberger, because think about this, guys. He maybe wanted to learn a lot about criminology because, hey, yeah, I want to have a study of the justice system, of course, but also he wanted to be in a position to mentor people, maybe to some extent, or a position to be a professor. And guys, these are trusted positions. So remember, when someone goes to manipulate somebody, if they try to achieve a trusted position, it kind of puts a layer of protection. Well, there's no way the professor would do this. There's no way the priest would do it. They hide behind the trusted title. So it's actually very long-term grooming here. You know, when I work in a correctional facility, I tell staff that, remember, guys, manipulation is long-term. So it really is about knowing yourself, because it's so long-term. It's small, subtle movements. It's very small and subtle that if you don't know yourself well, you don't recognize you're being shifted or groomed, because they're slow, small, step-by-steps. Now, granted, the long-term, the education behind it all, that's how it all works. And the smarter the individual, the more they plan out not just the game itself, but the contingencies. They take control. So with that said, I think that's a great read. Plan long-term grooming strategies. They learn how to read people quickly. That's the psychological part of it. And then they know how to have charisma. That's a key word when it comes to manipulation, charisma. So again, this does put a bit of a different spin here, especially when you combine it now with the psychological aspect and then wanting to be in a position of trust. Because if you talk to Ann Salter or talk to people that study sex offenders, most of the people that commit to these offenses are usually in some position of trust. You know, a grandparent, as I said, a priest, a counselor. So they hide behind the position of trust. And also, on another thing, sometimes they target people that they don't really have that much credibility. You know, maybe someone like a troubled student. So now you have a troubled student versus a respected professor. So again, that title matters. It really does. Most manipulation happens because we look at the reputation of the title as opposed to who am I really dealing with? And then it's funny because when you see behaviors, this is what I love about this professor. She must have saw behaviors that conflicted with those respected, what would conflict with a respected PhD student. And she held on to those. And the label of a PhD student became secondary to what she was seeing in front of her. And that really is someone that reads people very well, because now you have someone wanting to hide behind the label of what would be a respected student seeking his PhD, but he had some type of leakage that she recognized, or expertise and experience. So I think that is extremely insightful. I hope they cover this more. So then we have, again, kind of touched on this, but the interpersonal red flags. Given her experience working with predators, she may have been attuned to micro behaviors. I just said that. Small but consistent signs that someone tests his boundaries or disregards norms. So again, it's not about the title. She's seeing past the title. The title is the mask. The label is the mask. And she's kind of slowly taking it off. Examples in an academic context could include overstepping personal space or comfort zones in a subtle way. So she's really feeling the interaction, and she's allowing her experience, her expertise to not be pushed down. She is allowing those experience and expertise to come to the surface. Most people, they push it down. They don't want to be socially awkward. She knows a lot about what she does, and she's allowing, she trusts herself. That's the key. When you act on your feelings, it's because you have a trust in yourself. So her feelings are based on experience and expertise. So maybe there was some invasive question that seems out of context, but is framed as academic curiosity. So maybe he had some focuses on sexual predators himself. Who knows? That would be interesting to ask. What was his focus on? What was he trying to study? And was this study some form of obsession that she was able to connect with through her experience and expertise? Identifying and targeting vulnerable individuals, such as undergraduate students struggling academically, or those that are socially isolated. Maybe he was obsessive and wanting to reach to those individuals. Maybe she thought that was kind of funny. Like, why does he keep on talking about undergraduates, the vulnerable? Or why does he keep on talking about those that are socially isolated or struggling academically? Why is he constantly focused on it? Is he focusing on it for the right reasons or in context? Maybe he's trying to get people that are a little bit more vulnerable. Like, if I'm struggling academically, maybe there's some leverage for me if a person's struggling academically, maybe there's some leverage for me, who could be a potential professor or an adjunct, whatever it is. I got leverage now on this individual. I could take advantage of that level of vulnerability. Or if they're socially isolated, hey, no one talks to them. They don't exist. So maybe I could do, and who's to know the better? Because this person, no one knows who this person is. And then again, undergraduates are new. They're entering the college. They're trying to figure out their way. They're trying to maneuver, trying to figure out their path. And here this person comes in the disguise of a mentor. And through that moment of ambiguity, they're very vulnerable. They're very open. And as a predator, you could take advantage of that. You could take advantage of moments of ambiguity because they are moments of vulnerability. And these are often early stage indicators of grooming or coercive control. They may appear harmful at first, but reveal a larger pattern when tracked over time, because the situation gives in this case, Kohberger, leverage. These are vulnerable. So now I can put myself in this and take advantage of that level of vulnerability. So now I got next one here is pattern recognition from past cases. We were talking about this, right, guys? The experience, the expertise. So professionals in fields like criminology, psychology, and victim advocacy often build what's essentially pattern memory, the ability to match current subject traits with those of past offenders they've studied or encountered. And guys, sometimes they do it without even processing it. It's just they've done so much. Dr. Ann Salter did so many that it would just, before she could even process it, she felt it. And she had to lean on her feelings, because sometimes it takes a while to process it, that, it's like, wait a second, hold on. No, she acted it on in the moment and then later figured it out because she trusted in her own experience. So this professor likely saw clusters of traits, not single red flags. And by the way, think about how that works. You got stuff coming your way that when you become more experienced, you're able to put things together. So someone that's not experienced may look at things as individual factors. Isolated may not mean much, but an experienced professional like this professor or like Ann Salter, they don't see just one thing. They see how everything pieces together in the bigger picture because they've been involved in putting that picture together. So their mind is processing things while they are interacting with the individual in a way that we really, unless you've been there and done it, you don't understand. It's a tremendous, and again, it comes with the intimacy of wanting to know what that person did and why they did it. And when I say what they, why and how they did it, it's literally detailed, step by step. So again, you got the professor likely saw clusters of traits, not single red flags, but arrogance or superiority complex that disregards others' perspective. So definitely narcissism, predators. Again, we talk about this all the time. People are objects to me. I don't care what I do to them. They're nothing. So there could have been little things where he's trying to sell one image by covering up the other. So they're aware of that, because they're aware of that leak that pretty much changes the image, even if it's just one word. Wow, that what you just said there, that one word does not match who you're trying to tell me you are. And that one word is going to carry a lot more weight to our professionals than the image they're trying to sell, because they're used to looking past the mask. So that really is powerful. And again, it's that level of narcissism too. Entitlement, a belief that rules don't fully apply to them. Lack of empathy in conversations, especially towards people in vulnerable positions. So again, these could just be quick little things that they catch on that conflicts with the image that they're trying to sell. So it may, for a normal person, we would probably disregard it, minimize it, but they hold on to it because it doesn't make sense. Fixation on control in both academic and social situations, and fascination with dominance, perhaps in research interests, case studies, or personal conversations. Such clusters, when observed consistently, can indicate a persistent personality type rather than situational behavior. And guys, this is years of experience. Now, projection of risk into future. This was what was very impressive. My statement wasn't about what he was doing at that moment, but where his current traits and behaviors could lead, given more authority, credibility, and access to potential victims. She knows through her studies, just like Ann Salter knew, that title that they try to achieve is usually an image because it's painted behind a title or a label of trust. So they're going to exploit that trust. In her view, the danger wasn't hypothetical. She saw a likely trajectory: gain a PhD, secure a professorship, use that position to isolate, manipulate, and target individuals under the guise of professional mentorship. This forward-looking risk assessment is common in threat evaluation work, where the focus is not only on present danger, but on how certain traits can escalate with the power and opportunity. Think about that: the power of a professor, the opportunity of a professor, and the trust of a professor. That's just great long-term thinking. But again, that's when you're talking to people and they tell you how the grooming works. That ain't that key. It's like, well, how did you not just get that young child or that young woman to trust you to that level, but how did you get everyone else not to believe her or that child when you actually did it? And they ask those predators those questions. Again, you got to watch the Ann Salter video I did. It gets to a point where the loved ones don't even believe the one that says that they're being harmed, because there's no way that title, not the person, that title would do that. And another note is there's no way that I would put you in harm as well, because again, if you trust the title, like let's say it's a family member, and I refuse to believe it. Sometimes I refuse to believe it for my own survival, because that means that this has been happening and I didn't know about it. So no, I'm leaning on the title as well. No way would my father do that to my daughter. No way. But it's literally, you're hiding behind the label of what you expect that label to be, and not how that label can be misused. Confidence. Last part I got is, I wanted to keep this quick. Confidence in her assessment, mark my words, isn't casual language. It signals professional certainty based on repeated exposure to similar profiles. This suggests she had direct interactions with him that reinforced her concerns. So I'm sure there's patterns here about him. So it's her expertise and experience, but also patterns of her dealing with him. This probably wasn't the first time she dealt with him. Possibly witnessed incidences, even if minor, that align with patterns she's seen confirmed in predators. We talked about that. And no reliance on rumors or bias, but rather a professional judgment grounded in behavioral evidence. What is in front of me in the moment? What do I see in the moment? But they're a priest. What did I see today? But they're a PhD student. What did I see today in the moment? I don't care about the label. Even if his conduct hadn't crossed legal lines, you likely saw enough predictive markers to make a high confidence assessment that kind that's in her field that you would never ignore. So I love it. I love the fact they mentioned long-term grooming. Because, right, the smarter the manipulator, the manipulative person, smarter the inmate in my world, the more they do set you up for long term. They read people, they observe vulnerabilities, and then they pounce. And usually they look at a couple of things, because they're the guy that wants control. What do you got to control? Well, one, I got to get some control of my target. So what am I looking at? Opportunity, situation, environment. So I need to have some control of that. So for the environment, what's the best way for me to control this environment? Try to become that professor. And that opens up the world for me to get to the target. Look at all the things that happen when you manipulate. If you want to take control, you got to control a few things, right? It's not just a person. I got to control any type of counter influence. So the smarter the people are, the more dangerous they definitely could be. And there's a game for everyone. As always, guys, the show is Clear Talk. Stay safe.